In the outskirts of a forgotten town where empty buildings creaked with the weight of time, a faint trail of smoke rose into the afternoon sky. Locals barely noticed. Abandoned houses often caught fire from lightning or vagrants. But this one was different. Inside, tucked away behind broken walls and shattered windows, two twin babies, barely a year old, cried in fear. Their mother, desperate and homeless, had gone to search for food and hadn't returned. At the same time, across town, Alexander Holt, a reclusive tech millionaire with a troubled past, was driving to clear his mind. Recently awarded for his innovation, fire detection AI, he felt strangely unsatisfied. As he turned onto a quiet road, his eyes caught sight of the rising smoke. Something pulled at him. Instinct, fate, or a buried memory. He hit the brakes. Alexander Holt stared at the smoke, heart pounding. He had seen countless fires on screens through his AI surveillance systems, but this one felt personal. Memories of his own childhood, the cold nights in foster care, the hunger, the loneliness flooded his mind. He clenched the steering wheel. "Just drive away," he muttered. But then, a faint sound reached his ears. A high-pitched wail, almost like crying. He opened the car door. As he stepped out, the wind shifted. The scent of burning wood and something else, plastic, hit him hard. His instincts sharpened. This wasn't just a structural fire. Someone could be inside. He sprinted toward the house, eyes scanning the broken porch, the cracked steps. Smoke curled from a window on the second floor. He heard it again. Two distinct cries. Twins? Alexander reached the porch. The cries now, unmistakably real. Two tiny voices piercing through the thickening smoke. He grabbed the rusted doorknob and twisted hard, but it didn't move. The door had swollen with moisture and years of decay. "Hang on," he growled. He stepped back, scanned the porch for something to use. His eyes landed on a heavy wooden beam fallen from the roof. He lifted it with effort and rammed the door. Once, twice. On the third hit, the door splintered open, releasing a plume of black smoke into his face. Coughing, he pulled his shirt over his nose and pushed inside. The interior was dark, layered, with soot. Every creak of the floorboards beneath his feet threatened collapse. He shouted, "Hello? Is anyone in here?" But only the twins' cries answered him, louder now, closer. He moved quickly, adrenaline overriding fear. Somewhere, upstairs, two lives depended on him. The moment Alexander stepped inside, the heat struck him like a wave. Flames hadn't engulfed the entire house yet, but the smoke was thick and the fire was spreading. He heard the babies again, from upstairs. He looked at the staircase. It groaned, scorched and trembling with heat. One side was already starting to catch fire. He didn't hesitate. Clutching the cracked railing, Alexander took the steps two at a time, the wood creaking dangerously under his weight. Smoke stung his eyes, making it hard to see. The air was thick. He had only minutes, maybe. "Yes, hold on! I'm coming!" he shouted through the haze. He reached the top just as flames began licking the bottom step. There were two doors ahead, one ajar. He rushed toward it, heart racing. Inside the room, huddled together in a makeshift nest of dirty blankets and old clothes, were the twin babies, one boy, one girl, crying, coughing, but alive. His eyes widened. They couldn't be older than 1 year. Alexander rushed into the room and dropped to his knees beside the crying twins. The air was hot and dense, the walls blackened. He pulled his jacket over his mouth, coughing, and scanned the space for anything useful. The babies were filthy, wrapped in thin rags. Their tiny cheeks were red from heat and smoke. The boy had a tear-streaked face while the girl clutched a threadbare stuffed rabbit, holding it like a lifeline. They looked at him, eyes wide, terrified, but didn't scream. Somehow they knew this man was different. He wasn't a threat. He scooped them both into his arms, one on each side. They were lighter than they should have been, too thin, too fragile. A loud crack made him flinch. A flaming beam had collapsed. In the hallway behind him, they were running out of time. Cradling the twins tightly, he turned back to the door. The fire was spreading fast. The stairs were no longer an option. With the stairwell engulfed in flames, Alexander scanned the room for another way out. His eyes locked onto a cracked soot-covered window at the far end. Half open, its frame warped but passable. He hurried over, the floor groaning under his feet, and looked down. It was a 10-foot drop to the overgrown backyard. Not ideal, but survivable. He looked around for something to help. In the corner, a tattered bedsheet hung loosely from a broken bed frame. Grabbing it, he tied one end around a heavy metal pipe bolted to the wall, the other around his waist, forming a makeshift sling for the twins. "Stay with me, little ones," he whispered. With one arm holding the babies and the other steadying himself, he pushed the window open with a loud creak. Smoke poured out. Flames licked at the walls behind him. Alexander took one last breath, hoisted the babies tighter, and stepped out onto the windowsill. Then, with a controlled slide, he began to descend. As Alexander slid down the bedsheet with both babies clutched tightly in his arms, the heat from the fire seared his back. The fabric began to smoke. It was catching fire from the window above. He looked up in horror. Flames had reached the sheet's top. It was burning faster than he was descending. "Come on, hold just a few more seconds," he gritted through clenched teeth. The twins cried against his chest, their tiny hands gripping his shirt. The sheet gave a violent jerk. It was tearing. Loose snap, the fabric tore, they fell. Alexander twisted midair, shielding the babies with his body. They plummeted through dry air and thick smoke, hitting the earth with a loud, bone-jarring thud. Pain exploded through his side as he crashed into the hard ground. He didn't move at first, his ears ringing, vision blurry. Then, a soft cry. He blinked. The babies, still in his arms, were crying but alive. He exhaled shakily, tears of pain and relief mixing with the soot on his face. But then he heard it. A second explosion from inside the house. The fire had reached the gas line. The back wall began to collapse toward them. Alexander's body screamed in pain as he forced himself upright, still shielding the twins. The explosion had rocked the entire house. Fire now poured from the windows like a living monster, and the back wall groaned louder, ready to collapse. "Move!" he gasped, staggering to his feet. He clutched the twins tightly and limped across the overgrown yard, weeds slashing his legs, smoke swirling like a storm. Each step felt like knives stabbing into his side. He was sure he'd broken ribs. But the only thing that mattered was getting away. Behind him, the abandoned house gave a guttural crack. Boom! The back wall caved in, sending flaming debris flying across the yard. A fiery beam crashed behind him, just inches from where he had fallen moments earlier. He didn't look back. With one final burst of adrenaline, Alexander reached the edge of the property and ducked behind a rusted metal fence. He collapsed to his knees, panting, smoke in his lungs. The twins wailed, terrified but safe. In that moment, Alexander didn't care that he was a millionaire. He had never felt more human. Alexander cradled the twins against his chest, struggling to catch his breath. Flames roared behind him, painting the sky orange and black. The heat was unbearable, but he had made it out alive, with them. Suddenly, in the distance, sirens, fire trucks, ambulances, police. Someone must have seen the smoke and called it in. Relief washed over him, until he realized something. He was a billionaire, famous. And now he was here, covered in soot, blood, and holding 2 infants in a neighborhood he wasn't supposed to be anywhere near. It would raise questions, big ones. What would the media say? But more importantly, who left these babies alone? Where was their mother? Why were they in a house that had clearly been abandoned? For years, as the first fire truck screeched to a halt nearby, firefighters jumped out and rushed toward the inferno. Paramedics spotted him and sprinted over. "We've got a civilian injured with 2 infants?" Alexander nodded weakly, eyes locked on the burning house. "I need you to take care of them," he said, handing the babies over. "They've been through hell." The paramedic looked at him curiously. "Who are you?" Alexander hesitated, eyes reflecting the flames. "Just someone who didn't want them to die." As firefighters battled the blaze and paramedics loaded the twins into the back of an ambulance, Alexander sat on the curb, wrapped in a foil blanket, chest heaving. His ribs ached. Every inch of him stung from smoke and scrapes. But all he could think about were the two tiny faces that had looked up at him from that burning room. Then came the question that chilled him more than the fire had. Where was their mother? Police began canvassing the area, speaking to nearby residents, though most houses were empty shells. A young officer approached Alexander. "You said the babies were alone?" "Yes, upstairs, wrapped in rags, no adults in sight." The officer frowned. "We didn't find signs of anyone else. No woman's belongings, nothing recent." Alexander's mind raced. Had she abandoned them? Was she hurt? Or had something darker happened? In the ambulance, a medic gently rocked the baby girl. "She's dehydrated, malnourished. They both are, but they'll survive." Alexander's fists clenched. Someone had left these children to die, and whoever it was needed to be found. The next morning, Alexander returned to the charred remains of the house, accompanied by a detective assigned to the case. The air still smelled of smoke and ruin, and blackened beams hung precariously. "Anything useful?" Alexander asked, his voice rough from smoke. The detective shook his head. "Minimal. The fire destroyed most evidence, but..." He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his jacket pocket. "This was found near the door." Alexander unfolded the note carefully. It was written in hurried handwriting, smudged by soot. "Please protect my babies, I'll come back soon." His heart clenched. Could be their mother." The detective nodded. "We'll check local hospitals and shelters, but this abandoned place, no records of recent habitation. It's like she vanished." Alexander stared at the note. Somehow he knew this was just the beginning. He vowed to find the mother and to give these twins a future. Back at his penthouse office, Alexander couldn't shake the image of the twins' frightened eyes. He contacted a trusted private investigator, someone who owed him a favor, to dig into the mystery. Within hours, a breakthrough. "Alexander," the investigator reported over a secure call, "we found a hospital admission from last week. A woman matching the description of M checked in with severe burns, but she left without providing her name." Alexander's heart raced. "Can you track her?" "It's complicated. No ID, no family contact, but we've located her. Car abandoned near the city outskirts. It looks like she disappeared on foot." Alexander clenched his fists. Time was running out for the mother and the babies. He knew then that saving the twins was only the start. The real challenge lay in finding the woman who had risked everything to protect them. Under the cover of night, Alexander left the comfort of his penthouse. Wearing a simple jacket and jeans, he drove toward the city outskirts, the place where the woman's abandoned car was found. The streets grew darker, lined with cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights. This was a world far from his millionaire life, where danger lurked behind every shadow. He stopped near a forgotten alley and stepped out, heart pounding. There, among discarded boxes and graffiti-covered walls, he spotted a faint trail, footprints leading into a nearby park. Alexander followed, careful not to draw attention. Every crunch of gravel heightened his anxiety. Suddenly, a muffled sob echoed from behind thick bushes. He froze. "Hello?" he called softly. A trembling figure emerged, a woman, pale and exhausted, wrapped in a thin blanket. Her eyes met his, filled with fear and relief. "You found me," she whispered. Alexander nodded, stepping closer. "I want to help, but first we need to get somewhere safe." The mystery was deepening, and so was his resolve. In a quiet, dimly lit cafe far from prying eyes, Alexander and the woman sat across from each other. Her hands trembled as she sipped the hot tea he'd brought. "I'm Mara," she said softly, voice cracking. "The mother of those twins." Alexander listened intently as she began to unravel her story. "I was in a bad situation, a dangerous relationship. When I found out I was pregnant with twins, I hoped for a fresh start. But the father, he was violent. I tried to escape, but he tracked me down. Her eyes welled with tears. The night of the fire, I was hiding in that abandoned house. I fell asleep while trying to keep them warm. The fire started. He must have set it to find me. I barely got out. I left a note hoping someone would save them. I didn't want them to die. Alexander's heart ached. "How can I help you now?" he asked. Mara looked at him, vulnerable but determined. "Please, keep my baby safe and help me disappear for good." He nodded firmly. "No one will hurt your children anymore." Alexander wasted no time. Using his connections, he arranged for Mara and the twins to be placed in a safe, undisclosed location, a cozy, comfortable home far from the dangers they had fled. Doctors and nurses carefully tended to the babies, now beginning to regain strength. Mara rested, finally free from fear, though haunted by the past. Alexander visited daily, bringing toys and essentials, his protective instincts growing stronger with each passing hour. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through the windows, Mara smiled faintly and said, "Thank you, Alexander. You saved more than just their lives." Alexander smiled back, feeling something unfamiliar. Hope. They had survived the fire, but their real journey was just beginning. Days turned into weeks. Alexander remained a constant presence in Mara and the twins' new life, offering support. Beyond money, emotional strength, stability, and kindness. But Mara was cautious. Trust didn't come easily to someone who had been betrayed so deeply. One rainy afternoon, as the twins slept peacefully, Mara finally opened up. "I don't know if I can ever feel safe again," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Alexander reached out, gently squeezing her hand. "Safety isn't just a place, it's who you surround yourself with." Slowly, Mara let her guard down, sharing hopes, fears, and even laughter. Together, they began to rebuild not just a family, but a bond forged in fire and resilience. Despite the safety surrounding them now, Mara's nightmares haunted her nights. One evening, she confided in Alexander, "I can't stop thinking about him. The man who did this. What if he comes back?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "I'll do everything in my power to keep you and the twins safe." Determined, he hired private security and alerted the authorities to increase patrols around their new home. But more importantly, Alexander began helping Mara reclaim her strength, taking self-defense classes and counseling, preparing her to face the past head-on. Together, they were no longer victims, they were survivors. Just as Mara began to feel a flicker of hope, shadows from her past lurked closer than expected. One late night, Alexander received a disturbing call from his security. "Team, sir, there's been a break-in attempt near Mara's safe house. Someone tried to force the door." His heart pounded. The nightmare was real. Alexander rushed over, finding Mara shaken but unharmed. "This isn't over," she whispered. Determined to protect his new family, Alexander vowed to uncover the truth and confront the danger head-on. The fight for their safety had only just begun. Alexander and the police worked tirelessly, tracking leads to uncover the identity of the man threatening Mara and the twins. One evening, a breakthrough. Surveillance footage revealed a shadowy figure lurking near the safe house. The same man who had terrorized Mara. Alexander's blood ran cold. He arranged a covert meeting with the detective. "We have to stop him before he harms them again," Alexander said, voice firm. Together, they set a trap, using the safe house as bait. When the man arrived, Alexander faced him, not as a helpless victim, but as a protector ready to fight. The showdown would decide their future. The night was thick with tension. Alexander's heart pounded as the man approached the safe house, unaware of the trap. Suddenly, the figure lunged forward, but Alexander was ready. A fierce struggle ensued, a clash of wills fueled by fear, anger, and desperation. Police officers swiftly intervened, restraining the attacker. Breathing heavily, Alexander looked down at the man's face, a man broken by his own demons, no longer a threat. Mara and the twins were safe. For the first time since the fire, Alexander allowed himself a deep breath. Their nightmare was over, but their new life had only just begun. With the attacker behind bars, Mara finally began to breathe easier. The shadows that had haunted her slowly receded, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. Alexander arranged for counseling sessions for Mara and the twins, ensuring they received the emotional support they desperately needed. Together, they started to rebuild their lives, celebrating small victories like the twins' first smiles and Mara's renewed laughter. Though scars remained, hope blossomed in their hearts. Alexander realized that saving the twins was not just about rescuing them from a fire, but about nurturing a new family. Days turned into weeks, and Alexander, Mara, and the twins settled into a new rhythm. Alexander used his influence to secure legal guardianship of the babies, ensuring they would have a stable home no matter what. Mara began pursuing her dreams again, enrolling in night classes to become a social worker, determined to help others escape the horrors she survived. Alexander supported her every step of the way, proud of her courage and resilience. Together they envisioned a future filled with hope, love, and the chance to rewrite their stories. As Mara's strength returned, so did her desire to form a true family with Alexander and the twins. One afternoon, while the babies napped, she hesitated before speaking. "Alexander, I want to thank you, not just for saving us, but for believing in us." Alexander smiled warmly. "We're family now. I'm here no matter what." Their bond deepened, built on trust, care, and shared dreams. Though their past was filled with pain, their present was a testament to resilience and a promise of a bright future together. One morning, Mara discovered she was pregnant again, a surprise that brought both excitement and nerves. Alexander was overjoyed at the news, embracing the idea of expanding their newfound family. They planned for the future with hopeful hearts, preparing a nursery and dreaming of the children's futures. The trauma of the past began to fade further, replaced by laughter, anticipation, and the miracle of new life. Together, they looked forward to the family they were becoming. As Mara's pregnancy progressed, Alexander took every measure to ensure their home was safe and comfortable. They attended doctor appointments together, discussing names and imagining the new addition to their family. Though the scars of their past remained, the couple focused on hope and healing. But with new life came new challenges, balancing care for the twins and preparing for the baby. Their journey was far from over, but united they felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Despite their happiness, Mara found herself haunted by doubts and fears. She worried about the safety of her growing family, the scars that might never fully heal, and whether she was strong enough to protect her children. One night, overwhelmed, she confided in Alexander. "I'm scared," she whispered. "What if something terrible happens again?" Alexander pulled her close, his voice steady and reassuring. "We faced the worst and survived. Together we're stronger than any fear." His words gave her courage, but the shadows of doubt lingered. They knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. Determined to face their fears head-on, Alexander and Mara began attending counseling together. They shared their traumas, their hopes, and their plans for the future. Through tears and honest conversations, their bond grew deeper. Alexander reassured Mara daily, reminding her she was not alone. Their love became a fortress, shielding them from lingering shadows. With each passing day, Mara's confidence blossomed. Together, they prepared not only for the new baby, but for a future built on strength and unity. The long-awaited day finally came. Mara gave birth to a healthy baby girl, filling their home with joy and new life. Alexander was by her side, holding her hand through every contraction, tears of happiness in his eyes. The twins welcomed their baby sister with curious eyes and tiny smiles. In that moment, the family felt whole, proof that love and resilience could overcome even the darkest pasts. Their future, once uncertain, now gleamed with promise. Back home, the new family adjusted to life with a newborn. Sleepless nights, gentle lullabies, and shared moments of quiet joy filled their days. Alexander took time off work to help Mara, changing diapers and soothing cries. Mara marveled at how far they had come, from the darkness of the fire to this bright new chapter. The twins grew closer to their baby sister, their laughter filling the house. Though challenges remained, love was their constant guide. The house buzzed softly with the gentle sounds of a family adjusting to new life. Mara sat in the rocking chair by the window, cradling her newborn daughter close to her chest. Her eyes, though tired, sparkled with a quiet joy she hadn't felt in years. The twins toddled nearby, giggling as they played with a set of colorful blocks on a plush rug. Occasionally, one would glance up at their mother, curiosity and affection shining in their bright eyes. Alexander entered the room carrying a steaming cup of tea. He settled into the armchair beside Mara, his gaze softening as he watched his family. He reached out to brush a stray lock of hair from Mara's face. "It's amazing, isn't it?" he whispered. Mara nodded, tears welling. "After everything, this feels like a miracle." They shared a silent moment, the chaos of the past months fading away, replaced by a serene hope. But life with 3 little ones was far from easy. Mara struggled with exhaustion, sometimes doubting her strength. Alexander noticed every time. She forced a smile and gently reminded her she didn't have to be perfect. "We're in this together," he said, "every step of the way." That night, as the house settled into quiet, Alexander sat watching over the sleeping children. The fire, the fear, and the darkness were behind them. Ahead lay a future built on love, courage, and family. The early days of parenthood were a whirlwind. Mara felt as though she were navigating a storm, caught between exhaustion and joy. Each morning brought new challenges. The twins' boundless energy made calm moments rare, and the newborn's frequent cries demanded constant attention. One particularly difficult night, Mara awoke to the sound of the twins fighting over a toy, while the baby's wails pierced the silence. Overwhelmed, she sat on the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks. Alexander found her moments later, pulling her into a gentle embrace. "You're doing amazing," he whispered. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed." Mara nodded, grateful for his steady presence. Together, they created a system. Shifts to care for the babies, quiet playtimes, and small moments stolen for themselves. Slowly, Mara's confidence grew, and the family learned to find harmony in chaos. Despite the sleepless nights and endless messes, the love between them grew stronger every day. Weeks passed, and with each day the family faced new tests of patience and love. Mara's mornings often began with the twins clamoring for attention, their boundless curiosity sometimes leading to minor chaos, spilled milk, toppled toys, and laughter that filled the house. Alexander balanced his demanding career with hands-on parenting, often working late nights from home to ensure Mara wasn't overwhelmed. One afternoon, a small crisis hit. The twins fell ill with a fever, their tiny bodies burning hot and their usual laughter replaced with fragile whispers. Mara's anxiety flared, but Alexander remained calm, gently caring for them, and coordinating with doctors. Through sleepless nights and worried days, their partnership deepened. They realized that strength wasn't just about courage in the face of danger. It was found in these quiet moments of shared vulnerability and unwavering support. By the time the twins recovered, the family bond had grown unbreakable. The fever had passed, but exhaustion lingered in the household like a shadow. Mara found herself awake in the early hours, rocking her restless baby girl, while the twins slept fitfully in their shared room. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her chest. She wondered, in the silence of the night, if she was enough. As a mother, as a partner, as a protector. Alexander quietly entered the nursery, setting down a warm cup of tea and sitting beside her without a word. His calm presence was an anchor amidst the storm. "I don't know how you do this," Mara whispered, voice thick with fatigue. Alexander smiled softly, brushing a stray hair from her face. "We do it together, one day at a time." They talked, for hours in the dim glow of the nightlight, sharing fears and hopes. a raw, honest exchange that deepened their connection. Though the nights were long and the challenges many, their love grew stronger in the quiet perseverance. Together, they found the courage to face the darkest nights, not alone, but united. Months had passed since the fire that had nearly destroyed their lives, yet the scars, both visible and invisible, remained. Mara found herself waking up some mornings with a lingering sense of dread, flashbacks of smoke and flames haunting the edges of her mind. One afternoon, as she watched the twins play in the backyard, Alexander noticed her distant gaze. "Talk to me," he urged gently. Mara hesitated, then shared her fears of losing control, of the past catching up with them. Alexander took her hands firmly. "We survived that fire. We can survive anything. I'm here always." Determined not to let fear rule her, Mara began attending therapy sessions alone, confronting the trauma head-on. Slowly, she reclaimed her life piece by piece. Alexander stood beside her every step of the way, their bond forged stronger in the fire of adversity. Together, they were rising from the ashes, no longer just survivors, but fighters ready for a future filled with hope. Just as Mara began to feel a fragile peace settling over her, shadows from the past crept back into their lives. One afternoon, Alexander received an anonymous letter, a chilling reminder of the man who had tried to harm the family. The letter threatened that the nightmare was far from over. Fear and anger surged through Alexander, but he knew he had to protect Mara and the children. He contacted private security experts, bolstered home defenses, and vowed to confront whatever darkness lingered. Mara, though shaken, stood firm beside him. Together, they prepared for the battle. Ahead, their love and determination their greatest weapons. The past might haunt them, but it would not break them. In the days that followed the threatening letter, Alexander's normally confident demeanor became more guarded. He increased security around their home, hiring trusted personnel and installing advanced surveillance systems. Mara sensed the tension, but refused to let fear dominate their lives. She threw herself into caring for the children and preparing for the new baby's arrival. Despite the looming threat, small moments of joy persisted. A shared laugh over a spilled cup of juice, the twins' delighted squeals during playtime, the gentle cooing of their newborn sister. Yet, beneath the surface, an unspoken worry simmered. They knew the danger was real and could strike at any moment, but united they steeled themselves to face whatever came. Together, the night air was thick with tension. Alexander sat in his home office, meticulously reviewing security footage. His mind raced as he pieced together subtle signs that someone had been watching them. Mara comforted the twins, whispering lullabies, while Alexander's phone buzzed with urgent messages. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the quiet, an attempted break-in. Alexander sprang into action, alerting his security team and guiding Mara to a safe room with the children. Their hearts pounded as they waited, listening to footsteps echoing through the house, but the intruder fled, thwarted by the swift response. That night, the family realized the true cost of their new life. Constant vigilance, yet their bond only grew stronger, forged in the fires of adversity. They were no longer just survivors, they were warriors. Days after the attempted break-in, unease settled over the household like a thick fog. Alexander worked tirelessly with his security team, uncovering clues about the mysterious stalker. Surveillance footage revealed fleeting glimpses of a shadowy figure lurking near their property at odd hours. Mara's anxiety grew, her maternal instincts sharpening into fierce protectiveness. She refused to let fear consume her children. Yet she prepared emergency plans, escape routes, safe zones, and secret signals. The twins sensed the tension, their innocent questions about the bad man tugging at Mara's heart. Alexander reassured them with gentle words and extra bedtime stories, weaving safety and love into every moment. Though the enemy remained unseen, the family stood united, ready to face whatever darkness lurked in the shadows. Tensions reached a boiling point. One stormy night, the power suddenly went out, plunging the house into darkness. Alexander immediately activated the backup generator and security protocols. Mara gathered the children in the safe room, her heart pounding. Outside, rain lashed against windows, masking the sound of footsteps. Approaching. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed. The intruder had forced entry through a side door. Alexander confronted the figure in the foyer, a fierce struggle ensuing. Mara, clutching the twins and newborn, listened in terror. After what felt like an eternity, Alexander emerged, bruised but victorious. The police arrived minutes later, arresting the intruder, a man with a personal vendetta linked to Alexander's past. Though shaken, the family felt relief and a renewed sense of safety. Their fight was far from over, but together they had survived the breaking point. The dawn broke quietly over the city, casting warm golden light through the windows of their home. After the storm of the previous night, peace had finally returned. Alexander stood on the porch, holding Mara's hand, watching the twins chase butterflies in the garden, their laughter pure and free. The baby girl cooed softly in Mara's arms, a symbol of hope and renewal. They had faced fire, fear, and darkness, but had emerged stronger and closer than ever. The intruder's arrest marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. With healing hearts and unbreakable bonds, they looked toward the future. Together, they would build a life full of love, safety, and dreams realized. Their story was no longer one of tragedy. It was a testament to the power of family and the resilience of the human spirit.